What's the problem in your business? Let's figure it out.
I think you've worked with over 400-ish plus clients on the paid traffic side. What is the number one mistake that you see those clients making that is causing them to bleed money on their ROAS?
Usually it's being
That makes a lot of sense.
someone comes to me and they're doing 100K a month organic. Dude, we're cleaning up. You've already got all the stuff you need to scale. Just have a gaping hole in your business. One of my clients, Alfie Robertson, has been really crushing in like the personal branding space.
And what are some really good like try before you buy type of offers that are working well, at least with cold traffic right now?
Yeah, some of the best ones I've seen have been
That's one of our back end upsells actually for
rushed with that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get caught up in thinking I need a statistically relevant test, which you obviously do, but then they're going too slow. They'll come to me and they've got someone that's advising them and they're just kind of like, yeah, keep testing more creative and it's going to pan out. And I'm kind of looking at it, I'm like, dude, like you've tested 100 creatives and no one qualified has come through. There's something fundamental that's going on here that is wrong.
When it comes to creative testing, is it enough to just test hooks or do you also go about testing bodies too?
There is so much opportunity just in looking at.
Alrighty. Welcome everyone. Today we have Leo. Leo, you want to give yourself a quick introduction here?
G'day. My name's Leo Moore. I run a marketing agency called Soft Run Solutions. Basically run paid ads, run funnels for personal brands, agencies, B2B services, typical stuff. So looking forward to exchanging some insights and kind of seeing where we can go.
Hell yeah, bro.
Let's catch up.
Hell yeah. And to give you guys context, Leo and I connected about 6-ish months ago in a guy named Jeremy Haynes' mastermind. We've been running paid traffic for a couple years and, there's no other guest that I would love to jam out on paid traffic other than Leo. So that's why he kind of jumped on. So with that being said, I know like, we both are definitely on the younger side of the generation when it comes to the internet marketing community. And I don't want to, start off with such a boring question, but I'm genuinely like interested. How do you even get in the game at such a young age?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think it's kind of the same for everyone that does, depending on when they start. So like for me, I just got into uni, like college, did it for the first kind of 3 to 6 months. And I was just like, this is not gonna work for me. I was always like a very, hardworking student. Like I'd always try my hardest at school and I would do sports. I would, get good grades and stuff. So when I got to college and I was like, I don't really love this. I kind of knew that it wasn't just because I wasn't interested in academics and working hard. I knew it was because I was like, this is just like, my body and soul is just rejecting this because I just don't want to be here.
Yeah.
Don't enjoy it. So I didn't drop out. I gave myself 3 weeks to try and make money online in like the break of like the holidays between semester 1 and semester 2.
Yeah.
Signed my first client for like 2K. It was an email flow setup or something. And I was just like, all right, I'm going to take a gap year from college and just went from there.
What year was that though?
That was 2022.
That was, okay, that's pretty recent. Like it's only 3 years ago too.
Not too long. So 3 years. I'd had a sales background before that. So like while I was in uni, I was in a sales job and then I kind of knew how to sell intuitively and I was always like in leadership positions or whatever.
Yeah.
So it kind of just came natural and then I did the email thing and then I got into sales because I was like, I'm not going to just like do a random service.
Yeah.
And I was kind of worried about risk in terms of like, I need to make money. I'm going to drop out of like a law degree pathway here. I don't want to go into like start a business and mess it up. So I was always very kind of conservative. So I jumped into sales and just went from there and one thing led to another and, a couple of years passed and you're like, oh shit, like, this is pretty fun.
I know, man. I know. And was your first break in sales or like remote closing or did you start in the agency
honestly,
side?
I had a very unremarkable sales career.
Really?
Like I closed for maybe 7 or 8 months in terms of like remote high ticket closing. I had some 10K months. I think my biggest month as a closer was like 13K or something.
Yeah.
And then right at the point where I was about to like transition to another role, I basically got an offer to close for like a done for you Amazon automation. And I was like, holy shit, these guys are making so much money. Like all their reps are crushing it.
Yeah.
And I actually got the job and I was like,
something's a little sus.
It's not that something was a little, like obviously it was, but the guy that was offering me the position was very like hyper, like he's like his eyes are this wide. I'm like, all right, this bloke's, he's on one. But, instead of doing that, I helped a mentor of mine launch his own program because at that point it was when I was starting to realize about like funnels and pre-call sales processes. And as the closer, and I was 19 at the time, I was like, dude, these leads are not framed well at all. Like you're selling them this way on the call and then they get to the call and I'm having to deal with this. So I was kind of learning about all that stuff. And then as mentioned, like the Amazon automation thing was happening at once that I wasn't doing, but I was looking into. And I was kind of like, what do I do? So I just launched my mentors program. He did really well. And then I just kind of started taking over more of the sales process from generating the lead to closing the lead rather than just being on the calls.
I got you. So you eventually went from being a closer to partnering with your mentor, or were you working underneath your mentor?
It was like a growth partner, like the same as what you would do, where it's like you're just going to get on a rev share and just handle the funnels and the lead gen.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And dude, I feel like every advertiser first starts off as like a setter or a closer, because you need to learn like the art and skill of salesmanship, and then that translates into the skill of copy. And then once you know how to write copy, you can create banger ads, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing is that for me, at least, I would always get sick of the leads as the rep. And I was like, I don't like how this is happening. Like if you're telling someone to get on a sales call with me as the closer, and you're telling them you're going to get like a free consultation or you're going to get all this free stuff on this call, they're not coming to that call to buy. They're coming to that call for me to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And I don't know, it was at the time I just kind of realized, like, if we had to just, even if we booked them on the call that way, if we had to just pre-frame them in a slightly different way, they can get to that call with more intent. And that was when I started having not like beef with my offer, like the offer owners.
Yeah.
But I would be suggesting things like, hey, do this in the pre-call. Should we do this? Let's try this. And they would just be like, you're kind of like a 19-year-old dipshit closer, like, shut up.
Why?
And I was just like, that's fine. Like, I kind of agree. I'll just try and figure out how to do it myself and maybe come back and give you guys advice later.
I feel you, dude. And I feel like it's those moments that empower you to go start your own thing, because that's the point where you make that observation and you observe that you're like, hey, there's a gap. Like, there's a gap in the market for this. So actually, like, walk us through how you even found your mentor. Like, was that just like a random stroke of luck, or were you working with him? Because jumping from being a closer to like a growth partner is such a big transition that I think even a percentage of our audience a portion of our audience is actually high ticket closers right now, looking to eventually start their own thing. So how did you go from that transition?
I think personally, like, I think you kind of just stumble onto it, and it's always people who are a couple of steps ahead of you, and you just meet them, and maybe they see a bit of themselves in you. They can kind of see the talent that you have, or they see if you're switched on, and they'll kind of just, like, in my experience, whenever I've met someone, they'll kind of just continue the relationship and engage with you a little bit more than what would be typical for someone that you just meet at a mastermind or you just meet them somewhere.
Yeah.
And obviously that depends a lot on your ability to be interesting to them and give value to them and be like, hey, have you tried this thing for your, maybe they have a company that's way bigger than yours. You might say, hey, have you tried this thing? And they're like, oh shit, that's actually a pretty good idea. Like, this kid's actually not a complete dumbass. And then typically they're the types of relationships that you get into that are positive. But yeah, I also was always buying courses. I was always buying like programs, trying to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And I was very, I had a very foot on the gas mindset with that. So I was always interacting with all these different types of people and kind of, increasing the surface area of luck that I was going to have in terms of finding someone who could tell me what to do.
And I feel you on the statement where you said you just stumble upon it, because technically speaking, I have like the whole rich dad, poor dad concept. My rich dad ended up being one referral client that I got from one of my other clients. And I was like, dude, you're actually like legit as fuck in the space. I'm not going to charge you for my service. I'm going to do it for free. But in exchange, I just want an hour of your time. And he's like, honestly, dude, at this point, I don't even want the service. I'll just mentor you. And we've jumped on a one-on-one weekly call for the past like 4 years. And dude, I've not paid him a dime. And that's been some of the best mentorship I've ever received. So yeah, you honestly do just genuinely stumble upon it. So with that being said, are you still offering growth partner services, or are you just doubling down on Softron Solutions right now? Yeah,
good question. So pretty much the arc, you could say, of that was, I started that in about 2023 in March was when I took my last sales call as a closer in February, launched that offer for my like mentor type thing. And then I just kind of scaled that. I took on a bunch of clients, did decently well, but it was always one of the situations where it was very reliant on me and my time to work really closely with the clients. So I got to the point at the back end of 2023 where I was like, okay, I need to find a way to systematize this a bit better. Maybe even rebuild the structure of the offer so it's more kind of clear what we need to produce on the back end after you sell someone. It's a bit more templatized and focused on one specific thing. Because I would find I would often be kind of roped into doing multiple platforms of lead gen or getting kind of too deep into the sales process and not getting enough of the upside just in terms of how we were structuring it. So I was kind of about to make a decent sized shift in what I was offering, but that was when I met my business partner, Matt, who we ran 1000x leads through 2024. And that was basically, he had sold his agency for 10 mil and we were just basically slinging his consultancy stuff and his IP as like a typical program you would see for agencies. So I'd fully doubled down on that in 2024. And then at the back end of 2024, it kind of started to run its life cycle. And that's where I really started focusing on Sophron, which is purely focused around paid ads. Still running 1000x leads, so we still do that with Matt, but it's more like that's one of my clients that I deal with and help fulfill with. So it's a bit of an interesting one. Like it started off as more of like a general growth partner and then focused on the one client in 2024. And then through 2025, it's like, all right, we're focused on paid ads and pretty much lead gen because that's where I've seen the most leverage in terms of like the client results.
Yeah.
And yeah, just going from there pretty much.
So your partnership with Matt came after the partnership with your mentor, or?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So partner with Mentor early 2023, launched that. All I did was the launch pretty much. So we launched that, did some good revenue off the front end. I can't even remember. It was like 40K in the first 2 weeks. It was like non-remarkable to be honest. But that basically just gave me the case study to go and get more clients. Scaled up my kind of like growth partner agency in 2023. Focused on 1000x leads and Matt in 2024. That was lucky because it was all based around lead generation anyway. So it was all the same IP I was running. It was just done with you. And then shifted most of my focus back into the done for you end of 2024 into 2025. And that's where I've really this year been like, all right, this is like the long-term play is going to be similar to the stuff that we've been talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense. And from our last conversation, I think you mentioned you guys grew the 1000x leads program straight off of organic, right? You guys ran zero cold traffic. Is that right?
We ran a bit of cold traffic, but not much. And I think that's kind of the style of the business that we wanted. It was really just like, here's all the ways that we've done lead gen. Here's all the ways we've grown agencies or B2B companies or whatever. And yeah, it was pretty simple. Like it wasn't really viral. It was kind of like a niche product or service, but it really opened my eyes to what you can do with organic, and especially like a small organic channel of like 10, 20,000 subscribers. Cause I was always a guy that's like, yeah, drive as many leads as possible. And then you're obviously converting, but we would close like 4K deals off an email. Like it wouldn't even be sales calls all the time, which was
and the power of like YouTube organic, you honestly don't even need that big of an audience. I think the internet marketing industry in general is skewing towards, rather than having massive audiences, it's having niche personal brands. So with that being said, like, why did you guys switch over from that micro audience that's hyper qualified to cold traffic? Like cold traffic is a completely different beast than a warmed up like micro audience.
Yeah, well, I think we kind of didn't ever really shift towards going to cold traffic with that business, like with 1000x leads. That's always going to be like a guru business.
Yeah.
And I think something that Iman's actually talked about a lot recently, if you've been watching his kind of like business channel, I think it's a really good channel.
It's a really good channel.
It's like there's types of businesses for different stuff. So if you're going to have like a guru business that's just like an agency programs, like dude, just post some YouTube videos, have a decent sales process, and you are going to make really good profit at a really good margin. And that's just the style of business that it is. In terms of what I'm doing with Sophron, that's just kind of like my, what I want to do long term. Because again, I'm focusing on Australia. I'm focusing on kind of like really doubling down on my skill set of paid ads. And I think with that, going to cold traffic makes a little bit more sense when it's like an agency service, depending on what you're going to do with it. So we talked about this as well, like the different types of agencies you can have, whether it's like a conveyor belt agency where you're just signing a bunch of clients, or if you're doing something that's targeted at a bit more of like a unique style of customer where you're going to get on a big rev share and just try and run it up as hard as possible. The way that I've learned to build an agency is a little bit of a mix where like you have a front end offer that's built to basically drive clients into the business, drive a bunch of leads, and then the back end upsell is kind of like a really hands-on style of offer. So for me, going to cold traffic makes sense to generate that flow and that awareness around what you do and who you are, and then just basically having a productized offer there, which is like very easy to deliver in under 30 days. And then from there, because you're advertising so much, people know who you are and you can sell off the back end. That's kind of the approach that I take, but it's a little bit more complex, to be honest.
It's a little bit more complex, but it also, if you think about it, it allows you to spend more to acquire a customer. Because last time I was talking to you, you were talking about potentially launching your own version of an installation offer, right? The done for you paid ads installation offer.
Yes.
Is that something that you're still doing?
Yes. It's really good, man. Like for any sort of like high ticket recurring, the problem that you have is always that it's just hard to sell someone a high ticket recurring on the front end if you're going to charge a lot. It's just because it's like getting married. That's kind of the way I've always viewed it. But if you can get something that's still high ticket, still very valuable, but it's just a little bit better of a deal, it's a little bit lower risk, it works on cold traffic like literally 10 times better. However, the balance that you have to have is if you want to attract people that want a one-time thing, or whether you're attracting someone who wants to try before you buy because they're looking at a retainer, they just want to try before you buy. Because it's very different in terms of the messaging that works and the messaging that's going to get you a bunch of shitty deals. So that's kind of the balance that I've been playing with this year. Because it does, like with one-time stuff, it's cheaper, it's inherently lower risk, like that attracts a certain type of client.
Yeah.
Compared to if you're going with something where it's like, hey, if you're already spending this amount on ads, then we can help you this way. So it's just been, that's what I've been trying to figure out this year is that balance.
And what are some really good like try before you buy type of offers that are working well in the market, and at least with cold traffic right now?
Yeah, some of the best ones I've seen have been one-time email flow builds for email marketing agencies. That's like we've crushed.
That's one of our back end upsells actually for
crushed with that.
Yeah.
Mainly just because everyone neglects it. It's really like with email, it's so easy to get a result. Like with email guys, like it is so easy because most people just don't pay any attention to it. So if you're actually good, you can just install stuff and then they upsell it at a really nice rate. Another one would be landing pages has worked really well. Ad setup has done really well. I've also had a lot of success doing things for free, but for a very qualified customer. Like for example, it's like the same as like an installation build, but really comprehensive audits for free has crushed as well. There's also things like full funnel builds from like a bunch of ad creative plus a funnel plus, you know, like your automations or your tracking stuff installed. Pretty much anything where it's labor intensive to get started that people know they'll get a result from that they don't really want to do.
But they're willing to pay for it.
But they're willing to pay for it is always good. Like email flows, honestly, is like the easiest example of like, you just need your email flows optimized, just set them up. Like,
or email deliverability, which is even more of a bitch.
Yeah,
like,
deliverability is a good one too.
Yeah, because deliverability, so my ADHD brain, like I think about front end offers all the time. I'm like, if I were to start over, what would I do? Like I would low key just run cold traffic to some sort of like low friction funnel where you're getting qualified leads, but you get conversations going regarding an email deliverability issue because that's a huge pain point. There's urgency built in. It's an innate problem. There's like immediate revenue that comes as a result of it. And then you upsell them on either paid traffic or funnel build outs on the back end. So, yeah. And with that being said, like, with paid traffic in specific, we all know that the cost of a cost to acquire a customer is going up. CPMs are rising. Cost per book calls are rising. What are you currently doing with your acquisition funnels that is allowing you to afford to spend more to acquire a customer compared to the rest of the competition?
Good question. So something that's working really well for us at the moment is low ticket, and I think everyone in the space is kind of figuring out, oh shit, low ticket is absolutely back. So just basically putting something on the front end that's like $29, $47, $97, seeing how much ad spend you can liquidate, because that just takes the pressure off the upsell a little bit compared to if you're just doing a call funnel and you're booking calls for whatever. The sales team has to be really good. The funnel has to be really good.
You
have to be able to build trust. You have show rates, and that is all very fragile is the way that I look at it. It's like, oh, like if you have a rep that's onboarding and they're kind of fumbling the bag a little bit in their first week of actually being on calls, that's when like it can get dangerous, especially when you're spending at scale. So something we've done is just like at least trying to liquidate half of the ad spend off that first purchase. It has worked phenomenally well because it gives you the confidence to scale quicker as well. Because you're like, oh, even if you're like, if you get a 0.75 ROAS on the first purchase, you're like, dude, we're getting leads for this much. Like we're booking calls for this much out of pocket. That's a really, really good number. And they're already qualified buyers. It gives you a lot more flexibility and just to kind of put your foot on the gas.
Now, with the installation offer, do you view that as just like a front end liquidation styled offer, or do you expect to make a little bit of profit on the front end and then upsell them on a retainer on the back end?
It's kind of the same mindset, right? Like you're kind of just looking to spend and then liquidate as much spend as you can, maybe make a bit of profit. It depends how hard you're going, honestly, and how hard you're going depends on the type of company you have and where you're getting your traffic. Like for example, with certain types of agencies, like maybe a Google Ads agency, they might be looking to spend 1K a day on ads, try and onboard 15 to 30 clients a month, and they'll probably be looking to closer to break even. Like their CAC might be like 1 to 3K, depending on how good they are. However, some businesses, like some agencies, maybe they're not looking to spend that big because they don't want to onboard that many clients per month. Because with a lot of companies, like if you're signing 10 to 15 really good clients a month, you're pretty happy, especially if you're really an MRR-based business. So you can kind of get away with spending less, being a little bit more optimized and having that lower CAC because you're at lower scale. And in those cases, you can make a little bit of money. Also, if you bolster that with organic and you have a YouTube presence, you have your Instagram presence, you have your email list, because you just get so many leads that are in your vicinity, because you're advertising so much, because you're posting all that content, because you have a list, sometimes you'll just get deals that don't come from ads. Even though the ads are contributing, it's like they'll just drop from the sky.
Yeah.
It's like, then you'll make money because you're obviously not paying too much CAC.
What about sales cycles? I'm curious to get your take on with trust decreasing over time, there's a trust recession, yada, yada, yada. A pattern that I'm starting to notice is 7-day sales cycles are starting to go to 14 to 21 days, which increases your risk of your cash conversion cycle. Like the days of spending $1 and making like 10 bucks back in a 30-day cycle, it's still doable, but it's getting tougher and tougher. So what are some things that you're implementing in your paid acquisition systems that is shortening that cash conversion cycle, basically?
Going low ticket. Because I'm the type of guy that I've always not really loved the sleaziness of sales. Like I've always been a guy that's a little bit more relaxed. Maybe it's because I'm Australian.
Yeah.
Obviously the Americans love to go, go, go. I'm a little bit more, if you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't want to buy it, piss off.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with you if you're the type of client that is going to be a headache. I just don't want to. And I kind of have that mindset for my clients as well. So I don't want them to have to necessarily go really hard for credit cards when they're going to get in trouble for that. Maybe it's going to kind of affect their brand. I'm more of a guy that's like, let's do something low ticket so the pressure's off a little bit. Let's just get a 2x ROAS after the first week and just let that kind of incubate, let the leads kind of incubate. And then looking back, it's like, oh, we're at a 4 or 5x after 30 days. I'm happy with that. We can go. It's a fine line between, are you putting enough pressure on but not too much pressure to be able to do that? But I think everything that people talk about in terms of email flows, selfie videos in the sales process, retargeting ads, sending a shit ton of emails within the sales process as well. All that stuff's like a non-negotiable. Particularly when it comes to having YouTube content is one thing that I've really, I could not believe in that more as a middle of funnel asset, even more so than top of funnel. Because when you're just firing off YouTube videos that are specifically based around objections someone has or whatever it may be, it's infinitely better than having nothing, infinitely better. Because people talk about webinars, it's like one YouTube video equals one webinar, and someone might watch 10 webinars before a sales call,
That's a good point. And I was actually about to transition and ask, have you tested webinars for any of your clients? Because I know when it comes to trends, they're very cyclical. Before, webinars were hot. Now, then they died off. Now they're kind of back. So have you tested webinars with any of your clients, or are you just low ticket, low ticket, low ticket?
At the moment, I kind of default closer to low ticket, but I think the space for webinars is in the middle of funnel as a clean out webinar. So that's something that Jeremy was talking about as well. We'll try and flood leads with low ticket, scale that as hard as we possibly can, drive a ton of leads, and then the rest of it is how are your email flows doing? What's your YouTube doing? How many webinars a month can you do? Because sometimes you'll be like, we're having a bit of a slower month on conversion off the back of the low ticket. It's like, boom, let's just run a webinar at the warm leads. Get all the sales rep, text everyone, call everyone, hammer the list to get on this webinar, and then you can kind of just be like, all right, cool, that was a nice little cash injection. once a month for a clean out webinar like that. I love that idea because it's like just forcing them to the live event of a YouTube video, which would normally convert them, but because it's live, obviously it sells really well.
And even for those of you guys running VSL funnels, what we've been testing, and it's working so well right now, is we call them like private roundtables. It's literally a Thursday at 6 p.m. Every Thursday, we get the client to have like a live Zoom call, and the sales reps invite their hottest deals to that Zoom call, and it's a live roundtable Q&A with the founder, like the guru or the offer owner. And dude, you just scoop up like so many deals from that. It's easy sales because at the end, you start off with like some education, Q&A, and then at the end you're like, dude, honestly, Josh, what a XYZ name. You guys are honestly genuinely like chill people. I would love to be able to serve you guys. Can you guys promise me something? I'd love to extend an offer to you guys. Like, I don't even mind knocking off $500. Like, if you guys are able to, get started within the next 24 hours, but just promise to me that first of all, you're not going to release this to the public. Number two, like, we can't really offer this to everyone, but I genuinely see the potential in being able to help you, which is why I'm even doing this. So, taking that frame to it, dude, you just like scoop up so many easy deals, and it's so low effort too. It's literally like a Zoom call. So it's like a Zoom sales call close. So for any of you guys running VSL funnels, very easy way to increase your ROAS. So
I love that.
Yeah, it was astounding when we first tested it, and I'm like, why don't we just do this every week? So.
Hell yeah, because it's kind of like the clean out webinar, because it's like you were saying, that the trust recession stuff that everyone kind of laughs about is very true.
Yeah.
But there's also a ton of stuff like that you can do, because leads still exist and there are still tons of people coming through. Like, that's never really going to change. I don't think. Obviously the costs are one thing, but if you can really look after a lead and care for them, they are still looking to buy stuff. They're looking for someone that they can actually trust.
Yeah.
So when you do have those assets, what I've found is just that it's not like high ticket's dead. It's like, what are we talking about here? It's like,
yeah.
Are we going to make money, or are we going to just, just cry about it or something? It's like up to you.
Oh my God. I think there was like a solid season of like 6 months where everyone was saying high ticket is dead. And that's just like the low ticket guru saying like, buy my course, but buy my high ticket course.
You got to find a way, I respect it.
Yeah, I know. But I'm also curious, have you tested like potentially running paid traffic to in-person events? Because I heard, I think Hermosi's director of paid media say this. He mentioned that with in-person events, you get the scalability of online advertising, but the conversion rates and trust of in-person close rates.
I want to do that so badly. It's not even funny. And that's something I've been thinking about since I decided to really focus on Australia. The thing that I think Australia lacks so much is the in-person events, the masterminds, the community, et cetera, because you'll see Australian guys like me having to come to bloody Miami and fly 20 hours just to catch up with some guys that are on the same type of thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
And you'll see that pretty frequently. Like, Australians will constantly complain, there's no events for me, I have to fly to US, whatever. I have to join this US mastermind. And I think for me, in terms of like the vision that I have for my business, it will be doing events in some capacity, whether that's, I don't know if it'd be a mastermind, but I definitely think events where you're in person, maybe it's like even a kind of more closely knit, I think that's just the best. And then deals naturally just come to fruition from being in person.
Exactly. And you don't even have to like try to sell. They just happen. So it's like the same vibe of when you go to a mastermind and you're just like hitting it off with someone and you're like, dude, you're cool. Like, what do you do? What do you do? Exchange info. And then suddenly like you're working together. So it's just like the non-salesy, like, it's just so smooth. There's no better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Now, from a strategic perspective, like I know low ticket is one of your primary strategies. Do you guys still run like call funnels, VSLs, or
100%.
is it first low ticket to then maybe a VSL on the back end to book a call?
Yeah, for me the funnel strategy just always depends on who you're dealing with in terms of like the exact client I'm dealing with, like what's their sales team looking like, what's their email flows looking like, what's their content looking like, as well as what's the customer looking like as well. So is it someone who maybe they're very prone to watching a quick VSL and booking a call and that's just normal for them to do? Like, we have a few clients that target like e-commerce brands or something. Like, low ticket can work for e-commerce brands, but for the really big ones, like an 8 or 9 figure brand, you're not really going to get them as much unless you're going to hit like a marketing manager who downloads your thing or whatever. So in those cases where it's a little bit higher end of a customer, absolutely we'll still look at a VSL funnel, whether that's towards a like a free audit offer or some sort of free, very high value thing that's very high friction in terms of like we're qualifying someone really heavily to give them this free thing that's really valuable, or whether that's directly to some sort of intro offer that's like purely built around getting them a result ASAP. It's kind of like if I'm doing a call funnel, it's one of those things, and never to. I'd never really run call funnels to a core offer, just personally. Like I just don't do it because I've seen that those two have been so much better, just in my experience. I know everything works though. It's just that's what I'll bias towards naturally.
Yeah, and let's just say like, because primarily our audience is filled with coaches, consultants, agency owners, but primarily like online info like people who sell information products, coaches.
Yeah.
So if you were placed as like a CMO into a info coaching offer, what is the first thing that you would do to try and grow and scale them? Let's just say it's a classic 10K education program, right? In 2025, would you choose like a VSL? Would you choose a low ticket? Like walk us through like your thought process and strategy behind creating a roadmap to scale.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd always say though it depends, because it depends on what's going on within that business. Like maybe they have a huge customer base of people who bought a 10K thing in the last 3 years, but they don't have anything else. So in that case, it's like, oh, dude, you can just hammer the list, get all the reps, reach out to all the old leads, try to get some sort of continuation offer on the back end. Maybe it's a situation where they've run it all just from paid ads, all very direct response based, all through a call funnel. In that case, I'd start looking at rolling out content, rolling out email flows, rolling out potentially a more top of funnel style ad strategy, like a low ticket or lead magnet or whatever. But it always is going to depend on what's their current situation and where's the low hanging fruit going to be. Because specifically with a lot of these companies where you've got a strategy that might have gotten you to 100, 200, 300K a month, there is so much opportunity just in looking at where have you not optimized your stuff. Like it's so abundant. Like someone comes to me and they're doing 100K a month organic. I'm like, dude, we're cleaning up.
Yeah.
So you've already got all the stuff you need to scale, but you just have a gaping hole in your business where you're not looking. And I always just look for that because I'm a very, I'm very bullish on like constraints-based scaling. Like as soon as I learned that, I was like, oh, that's it. Like that's what I've been doing, and I didn't have a name for it. I didn't really have like a theory behind it, but that is exactly
a process
what you need
behind
to do.
it.
Yeah, a process, exactly. As soon as I figured that out, or as soon as I learned that, it was actually from a Hormozi workshop.
Yeah, the scaling workshop.
I was just like, oh shit, like that's really good. Like,
Yeah, those scaling workshops are really good. And when he explained the theory of constraints, I was like, wow, never thought about it like that before. But it actually, it stems from a book called The Goal. Hormozi didn't really come up with that.
I looked into it after and it was like, oh, it's like a management consulting thing that's like been around forever. And I was just like, oh, thanks to Hormozi.
Yeah.
For, like, be famous enough to actually
like
make me pay attention and share it to us. Like, I think everything is kind of like that though.
Yeah, it's like no one really originates information. It's all passed down through the generations in different tonalities and ways of expression. So as long as you get the information and you apply it and get the result, who really cares? But yeah, with that being said, I know with Saffron Solutions, you mentioned it's a marketing agency. Or walk us through what you're currently focused on and what the long-term vision looks like for you. Yeah,
that makes sense. And I say marketing agency because I think that's what people understand it to be. It's like what we do is we make funnels, we make ads, we scale businesses, and that's how we do it. Like it's relatively simple in my mind because I'm someone who does this all the time.
Yeah.
And I think marketing agency is like the most digestible term. In terms of what I envision it to be, like it's kind of cringe to say like a marketing firm where you have your done for you side, you have your consulting side, you might have some education stuff, you might have some in-person events. But really like what I love doing is I love working with clients that are really like high level operators. They're beasts. They're, like I said, maybe they're 100 to 300K a month and they're looking to roll out paid and go really, really hard. When I see those guys, I'm like, or girls, I'm like, perfect. Like we're going to run it up really hard because I just love that interaction of like figuring out how we're going to blow up a business. And then also off the back of that, something that I see in the space is a real like mystification of online business, or a real kind of like Fugazi. Like there's just so much bullshit around. So I really enjoy bringing like the Australian edge to online business, which is very just no bullshit. It's very, we're not here to fuck spiders. You know, that's one of our sayings. It's like, we're not here to fuck around. I love doing that and just kind of making content around that sort of stuff. And that comes into the events, that comes into the education and the stuff that might be a little bit more catered towards the lower end of the market. And just figuring out a way to deliver that in a leveraged way so I can focus most of my time on those higher end clients.
Yeah, and with acquisition for yourself, are you more focused on trying to validate a cold traffic system for you? Because are you like doubling down on the micro like niche personal brand? Because I know you have a pretty big, like relatively good sized personal brand, but you also are trying to break in, not break in, but like scale via cold traffic. Like, where's your focus right now? Is it just more on the content side or on the paid traffic side, at least for your business?
Yeah, for me, it's always kind of like, I look at lead gen as it's one area. Like generating leads is one thing. And the best way for agencies like ours, for me, is always going to be having somewhat of a niche personal brand, referrals, because that's where you're going to get your best clients. So it's always on delivering a service. And then also for me, I'm always like, I'll have ads running. Like I'll just do ad stuff and it's not really taking that much focus. But I think with this, the thing I've been really trying to figure out is how to attract those really elite clients that are kind of hard to find in some ways outside of a referral or outside of a personal brand, but doing so via paid ads and building the amount of trust that's required in a short amount of time. So I've just been testing some stuff on low budget. It's all right. It's been good for awareness and stuff, like definitely interacting with more and more of the types of business owners that I want. And they typically come from interacting with the paid ads, seeing my ads, coming through my personal brand, hanging around for a little bit. Maybe they'll enter the DMs, maybe they'll then see a case study, and then we'll start having a really serious conversation. So that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like the main priorities of my time are spent towards content and lead gen, delivery. And that's like basically the whole thing. Makes
sense. And you mentioned that you're split testing some new strategies on the back end. If you're open to it, I'd love to share to the audience what are some cool like split tests that you're running and new strategies that you're testing potentially that are working well for you?
Yeah, good question. Like the stuff that I look at for this type of agency is like, you're either going to go really heavily catered towards the high end, or you're going to go something a little bit more mass market. And I think like as soon as you separate those things and you can say, I'm going to have maybe one funnel that's really catered towards, if you're this type of person, you go here. If you're this type of person, you go here. So what I've kind of settled on is for the lower end of the market, that's not really, maybe they haven't launched ads yet. Maybe they understand they need ads, but they're just like, I need to launch. I need a way to do it. I need to understand it. I need to demystify it. So I'm going to launch a like a $97 live workshop for that audience, which is going to be basically on this like call with me. We're going to do like a group webinar style thing. I'm going to run you through all the information you need. I'm going to run you through the examples you need, and I'm going to run you through any questions you have so that within the next 7 days you can launch. Then there's obviously going to be support off the back of that. Of course, I'm going to upsell you no shit.
Yeah.
So that's one side. And then the other side is, like I said, trying to figure out how to get those higher end clients via cold traffic. And for those things, I'm thinking some sort of free audit is usually quite good, because when those people come to me, usually it's because they're like, I have this problem, I can't fix it. What are you going to do about this? You know? And I'm like, oh, well, I just do this. And like, okay, cool. Like that makes sense then. I think for those clients, though, I really believe in personal branding and referrals, which I think you kind of resonate with as well. Not necessarily in terms of like a viral personal brand, but like
a niche.
That's the way to do it, is like your reputation will bring you those big clients just kind of naturally.
Yeah. And what's worked really well for us is yes, referrals, yes, personal brand, but it's a completely different category no one really talks about. And it's referral. And it's not referrals.
It's
sorry.
referrals.
It's actually partnerships. So
right.
So we got have you heard of a company called selfpublishing.com?
Oh, is that basically publishing.com by like a competitor?
No, because they offer something different. So long story short, they help CEOs, entrepreneurs, business owners create a book and like launch it as a low ticket offer, start generating leads, you know, grow your authority as a creator. But they do, I think they've done over $75 million, and they're like high ticket info coaching.
Oh, wow.
And they're still around to this day doing over $1 million a month. And their primary driver of acquisition is partnerships. So all they do is they go to these creators. They're like, hey, for example, Dickie Bush, right? Like they're like, hey, Dickie, you have an amazing audience full of writers. Maybe those writers want to launch and publish a book, right? There's affinity with the audience. Let's do a webinar together. I'll give you 20% as a kickback for every customer that we sign. So why partnerships has been so powerful to us is it really gets summed down to this quote: your disqualified lead is my ideal client. So if you go to another agency, for example, for example, there's some agencies, other marketing agencies that just work with enterprise deals that also run paid traffic, but they get disqualified leads that only do $1 million a year, but they can't work with them. So their disqualified lead is my ideal client. So why do you want to waste that ad spend? Let's just do a quick partnership saying, hey, toss me those leads. Everyone that I close, I'll kick you back 20%. You liquidate your ad spend. Win-win.
I love that. Yeah.
So no one really talks about that. There's so many creative ways to structure partnerships, and we've landed some insane accounts just through that.
Yeah, I love that. Particularly, so Matt, my business partner on 1000X, he had added like 350K MRR on white labels.
Dude, what? Yeah, that's another great. Yeah.
So it's like, it is legit. If you can figure out partnerships, it's over. Like you're gonna because you can get like 100 clients from one partner if they're that good of a partner. I definitely think it's just something I haven't tapped into enough. Honestly.
What was that Ty Lopez quote? It's like all it takes is one connection to double your net worth.
Yeah, come to the party.
Come to the party. The mansion party.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you ever go to the mansion party?
Oh, I mean, LA parties don't have the best.
It's just a bunch of people fucking spiders.
Yeah, it's Diddy parties in LA over there, man. I don't know. I like that. Honestly, if I was in LA and I was like, saw an ad and it was like, there's a party at this place, I'd be like, all right, fuck it. Like, I'll try it.
Yeah.
Why not? Try everything once, you know?
So actually, with that being said, I know you mentioned Australia. It's like, is its own realm. Who are like the big influencers from Australia? Because I know like Sam Ovens originally was from Australia, but
He's
then
from New Zealand.
Or New Zealand, same thing.
New Zealand is like the Canada of Australia.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like New Zealand's like it's like your weird cousin.
Ah.
They're good though. We love New Zealanders. They're cool. But
okay.
At the same time, they're
different.
They've got that weird accent extension. So some people think it's the same, but it's certainly not. Who's big in Australia? People who are big in Australia are right now in terms of up and coming. One of my clients, Alfie Robertson, has been really crushing in like the personal branding space. So he does really well. We have Davey Fogarty who made the Oodie. He crushes it. Like he's a beast.
He's a shark.
Yeah, he's on Shark Tank as well. Sabri Subi, he's a classic. He's Australian. His office is like 5 minutes from my house. So
really?
Yeah, I see it all the time. So they're probably the big three that come to mind. There's some more. There's like Jay Wright who does e-commerce stuff. There's Taki Moore does coaching.
He's from Australia?
I believe he's from Australia. I think I saw him in Noosa or something, but he crushes. I love his content, so he's pretty good. There's a good sized community there.
Yeah.
But it's not as common as it is here. Like here, you'll be in like where we're at, like we're in a random car park in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, there's just people that do this here. But in Australia, it's a little bit more of a niche thing still.
Dude, and here's the craziest part. So when I first started my business, I started in Dallas because I lived there for 13 years, and I moved to downtown Austin about like 3 years ago. And I think I was in a Chipotle, like line at Chipotle, and I was just like, I started up a conversation with the guy in front of me, and I'm like, all right, yeah. So what do you do? And he says, I'm a high ticket closer. And I almost lost my shit because I'm like, there's no way. There's no high ticket closers in Dallas. But like the first dude in this random Chipotle line that I meet, he's a closer. Like when you move to the right areas, you just start rubbing shoulders with these same people. Like even in Miami, you know that like blonde girl, Shelby Sapp or whatever? Yeah. I met her at a coffee shop. And then like, it's insane who the people that you meet if you're in close proximity. So, yeah, like if you were to run an event, like how do you see that going? Is it just like traditional education or just more mastermind style?
It's a good question. I wouldn't do like traditional education, to be honest, because traditional education's it's a little bit 1990s,
Yeah.
No, but I would probably look at something a little bit more mastermind style. I think to start, I would look at doing like a small group in a very intimate setting. I really liked Hormozy's one as well,
Yeah.
which is like get everyone in a room, we'll do a presentation, we'll do small breakouts, we'll do networking or whatever at the end. I think Jeremy does it really well too, where it's a little bit more free flowing. Like obviously there's content, but it's a lot more like
Networking.
All right, we're here. Like what's going on? What's the problem in your business? Like let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Because that kind of just fosters relationships a bit better. Something like that where it's like either small group, very intimate, very focused, or a bit more presentation based, and then kind of networking and food.
I got you. And I'm starting to ask this question to a lot of our guests, and it really gets them thinking. And what is like one best practice that everyone in the info space does that you think is maybe incorrect or that you don't completely agree with?
A best practice that everyone agrees with. That is a good question.
Because you'll go to all these guys and they're like, why are you doing it that way? It's like everyone does it that way.
I don't know. I'm big on, I don't really agree with anyone that much unless I am like a student of them in a way. Like for example, Jeremy, I think Jeremy has a lot of really, really good stuff. I love his stuff and the way he goes about it. But I think most of the stuff I see online, I'm kind of just like this is like this is just BS. So I kind of think in terms of best practices, it depends who you're talking to. Because if you're talking to someone like us or Jeremy, they'd be like, oh, best practices, like our best practices, they're good. They work really well.
Yeah.
But then if you go to like maybe a different niche, their best practice might be, oh, you can't run ads because it's too expensive because ad costs are too high. Like that's one that I've heard people say online from, pretty reputable sources that I'm just like, I don't know whether you're just out of touch or you just have no idea what's going on in terms of what's possible via paid ads. But you hear people say stuff like that every now and then, and I'm just like, oh, like you just have no idea what you're talking about type thing.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you've worked with over 400-ish plus clients on the paid traffic side. Like what is the number one mistake that you see those clients making that is actually like causing them to bleed money on their ROAS?
Usually it's being too slow to make decisions. Like I think a lot of people get caught up in thinking, I need a statistically relevant test, which you obviously do, but then they're going too slow and maybe they'll come to me and they've got someone that's advising them and they're just kind of like, yeah, just like keep testing more creative and it's going to pan out. And I'm kind of looking at it, I'm like, dude, like you've tested fucking 100 creatives and no one qualified has come through, or you've spent like 20 grand and no one qualified has come through. Like there's something fundamental that's going on here that is wrong. And I think the way I kind of look at it is kind of like a physiotherapist. Like I think you said you're gonna like a physio or something after this.
Or orthodontist, yeah.
Orthodontist. So not quite a physiotherapist. But when you go to a physio, if you say like I have a sore knee, they're not going to look at your knee. They'll be like, what's going on in your glute? What's going on in your lower back? What's going on in your calf? And kind of really being able to quickly identify what is going wrong in this campaign such that it's not driving a ROAS, and go quickly and make decisions quickly and then move quickly in terms of taking action to fix it. Most people just don't have the conviction to be able to look at something and say this is a conclusive, indicator that it's not going well or it is going well, which then leads to just like leaving unprofitable shit on for way too long. That's kind of a lower end of the market thing. At the higher end of the market, it's usually just not testing enough creative.
That makes a lot of sense because even one of actually a lot of business owners here in Austin, if you ask them, hey, what's your revenue been now? They'll be like 100K. A year ago, what was their revenue? 100K. And then they only spend like 30K a month and they've been spending 30K a month. I'm like, why don't you just spend more? They're like, it just breaks when you scale. And then they're like, I asked them, have you tried testing more creative? They're like, yeah, but like, they come up with some excuse, and that excuse is the reason that they're not scaling. So I agree on the upper echelon of the market. Like their time is so constrained that like they can't carve out the time to test enough creatives. But another pattern that I've noticed is when it comes to creative testing, how do I frame this question? When it comes to creative testing, is it enough to just test hooks, or do you also go about testing bodies too? Because the reason I bring this up is I know of a company that has scaled to $1 million a month as like a info coaching consulting styled offer, and up until $1 million a month, $300K a month in spend. All they did was they kept the same body and they just like mass tested hooks. So what's your take on that?
It depends how good the ad body is. Because if the ad body is the level of ad body that can scale to $1 million a month, of course, just test hooks. But the likelihood that the average Joe advertiser is going to create an ad body that is good enough in a big enough market and it's a scalable enough creative to reach that level, pretty low. Because the way I look at it is like, typically an ad creative has a certain amount of people that could convert based on that messaging. So if you're trying to get one ad creative that can convert this huge pool of people, that is a very difficult thing to do. Something that's a little bit easier is like, if you can create ad bodies, if you look at it like envisioning like a pie chart, you can create ad bodies that pick up each different segment, which might be a completely different angle, because it's really difficult to come up with an angle and an idea that can convert that big of a pool
That
of people.
encapsulates the whole audience.
Exactly. So the way I look at it is like, you have a vertical or a horizontal. Like a vertical scaling of just like, this one ad body is good enough, it can get all these people, I'm just going to scale the shit out of that specific angle. Or it's like there's all these kind of little mini segments of the market. You can actually pick up a lot of those with just like blatantly different messaging, and sometimes even completely different offers, because some people buy low ticket, some people go through a call funnel, some people download lead magnets, some people will only be nurtured via organic. So if you're really trying to push, there's like that option, but you can most definitely go with just a few, simple creatives, and even not necessarily only testing the hook, but maybe you have the exact same idea and the body and the idea of the ad is very similar, and you're just kind of going at it from a different angle, or maybe you get a different creator, like a woman or a man. We've had good success with that. Or even like, for example, testimonial ads where you're talking about this client got this. Like you can just use different demographics without even having to get the creator.
Yeah.
With the exact same idea of the ad. And then it can just be the exact same thing, and that can give you huge scale.
The cool part is what we've done in the past is also we've taken our winning hooks and our winning ads with a male character, and all we do is just have a female recite the exact same script, and it just prints. Like your cost per call is going to be like 70% or 50% of what a male UGC creator would be. But walk us through like what is your process of ideating and validating a front end messaging angle look like? Like walk us through that process.
It's a good question. I usually kind of base it off the sales call recordings of the client. So I'll typically, like when I sign a client, what I do is I'll get their sales call recordings and then crunch them into a GPT or crunch them into a Claude. And then I'll basically kind of weight or get some sort of ratio for like what type of pain points are coming up, what type of ideas are coming up, what type of problems are coming up, frustrations, all that typical stuff. Like what do they want, what are their goals? And then get some sort of like ICP document where it runs me through all that stuff. And then just if it was like a really fundamental framework, I'll get a list of probably like the 5 to 10 angles that I think are going to work the best. They might be very, very different angles. I'll launch initially with each of those, find the winners based on those, and then create the iterations off the back of it. So it's always just a process of like, get the information, take a bet of what's going to work, get some data. Okay, based on these 10 ad angles, maybe the second, third, and seventh ad were actually really good. The rest of them were kind of mid. That means the angles in these 3 ads, I'm going to go and make 5 iterations of each of those ads. Now I have 15 ads, and then you can kind of see based on the variables, okay, these variables work, these variables don't work, and then that's kind of how you eventually like mix and match into a really good ad campaign. And then you have competitor research and stuff like that and what's working. I typically always go based on like problems and go based on like what's the reason people aren't getting results, particularly in competitive markets. But yeah, it depends. Obviously, there's so many things that can work in terms of messaging. Like I spend most of my time in messaging.
Yeah,
most of my time. So yeah, what's going to work? I'm pretty open to testing random stuff. So in that first stack of 10 that I might test, I might take a couple of big swings at like, this is a completely random idea that I just popped into my head while I was on a walk or something or in the shower. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, it's not going to get any spend anyway because it'll go.
Do you track your like win rate on your ads, or is that something that you just like, hey?
I'll track it if we're really pushing, but it's more of like a rough guide. So what I kind of have in terms of a system behind that is like, it's just a Notion dashboard where it will be all the ad creatives, they'll mark it as a winner or a loser or like a banger or like something that's just complete shit. And what I found is like 5 to 10% is like typical range, maybe even lower than that sometimes. Yeah, it always depends.
Yeah, and for us, it's just like a good metric to know, because if you're that's kind of like a weird metric to optimize for. It's like, I want to get my win rate of my ads up. Like, why? Just like focus on ROAS, ROI. Like, with enough volume, even at a 5% win rate, you're gonna get enough winning creative. So, yeah, I was just asking that out of curiosity, because I know some media buyers are like, yeah, like I notoriously track my win rate, and then sorry, not media buyers, creative strategists, like they're like, yeah, I track my win rate. I'm like shooting for this, and then others are like, yeah, I mean, I kind of know what it is, but
yeah, I think it's good to have a rough idea. I think for me, a lot of the time you can get a good idea of where you have to go based on the information you're getting. Like, are my creatives working or are they not working?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, well, they're not working. We're like, all right, we need to fucking do something different, you know? Like,
Yeah.
we need to get something better.
So, and I'd love to touch on the data side too. So compared to, messaging, big idea, of course, like your offer, your messaging has to be on point, but from a data-driven decision-making standpoint, how granular do you track your metrics? Is it just like, are you looking at high level metrics like cost per call, cost per show, CPA, et cetera? Or are you tracking more granular metrics like your hook rate on your ads or your click through? How deep do you go in terms of granular tracking on the ad level?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'll go kind of as granular as it needs to be. And particularly when it's like from the start, for example, low ticket funnel, I'll know, okay, if I want to get a 1x ROAS on the front end, $97 product, let's say it's like a $2 cost per click, that means I need a conversion rate of, what does that mean? Like 2% if it's like quick maths?
$97 product, 2% conversion rate?
Yeah, so $97 product, $2 cost per click, that means one in 50
so need to convert.
Yeah, exactly. So 2%.
Yeah.
So that means I know roughly, like, all right, I'm hunting for a $2 cost per click. I'm hunting for a 2% conversion rate. That's going to get me a 1x ROAS. So that when I launch, I can see, all right, well, my cost per click is like $5. I'm screwed. This is not going to get a 1x ROAS. That does not necessarily mean that campaign cannot be very profitable, because, like I said, sometimes you might get a 0.5x return on the first purchase, and then the upsells make it work really well. But I will go down to the cost per click. And the conversion rate of the page and things like that, outbound CTR, that type of thing, but not as much with call funnels, mainly because obviously you can get a low cost per click on a call funnel. We run a lot of in-feed VSLs though, as in like we'll go for like the call booking on the
ad itself.
So if someone's clicking, like a lot of the times those pages can convert like 5-10% or even higher. Because once they've reached that page, they're pretty sold on
5-10% click to booked call or click to lead?
Yeah, like click to book call.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. In certain industries, but the cost per click might be like 15,
might be like $15. Yeah, that makes
exactly.
sense.
So it's just like the overall effectiveness of the campaign matters way more in those cases.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, it comes down to the ability of like, all right, the knee is the problem that's presenting, which might be poor ROAS. What is the actual thing that's leading to that? Because sometimes it might be cost per click. Like I know a lot of people go really hard, like, oh, my CPM was this, my cost per click was this. Oh my God, it's not working. It's like, dude, like the whole thing sucks. It's not gonna. The offer sucks. You have to figure that out, which is kind of it takes a bit of patience, I feel, and sometimes you don't know for sure. It's like it could be this, it could be this, but you have to try and again, might need to run another test to figure that out. It requires patience in those cases, I feel.
And specifically for call funnels, have you tracked or seen any correlation between the messaging of the ad and even show rate?
I haven't tracked it, but the messaging, the ad, and the type of client we get, particularly in like when I'm running B2B, and like if you get a client that's making 6 figures a year, that's like okay. But if you get a client that's making 9 figures a year from an ad, like one specific ad that's consistently bringing in these like 8-9 figure clients, that is a very, very different level of value that's getting driven from one specific creative. So that's something I'll pay huge attention to, a little bit less so than show rate. But I imagine if I was presented with an ad that was like working way better, I'd try and figure out why that is. And then I'd probably go into that level of depth. I'd be curious what you've found based on that though.
Yeah, so the reason I bring that up is because we run straight call funnels, and I'm like, I just want to understand the cause effect relationship behind any important metrics. And the main important metrics that I look at is, of course, cost per show, like CPA, cost to acquire a customer, or cost per acquisition, whatever you want to call it. Cost per show to booked call, cost per booked call, cost per lead to set rate, the high level metrics. But we started seeing that, like, as we started scaling ad spend on this one particular account, show rate started to dip. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. We're going to colder markets. But could it also be due to, like, we were aggressively creative testing, coming up with new angles, not just like variations of winners.
Like just completely new ideas.
Completely new big ideas, like from a copy perspective. So I'm like, I wonder if there's a correlation. Like, this is just how my mind thinks.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a fucking correlation between us saying this type of messaging and people being as interested in that messaging to actually show up and purchase on a call. Because technically speaking, that our show rate was the biggest constraint. And if I increase show rate from like 30% to 50%, oh my God, we can just spend so much more on ads.
Did you get the stats on it?
We're actually digging the stats, and I'm happy to share what we find.
I'd be interested. My guess would be like that it would be absolutely yes, that it would be having a huge impact, because for me, I always just view it as like what you're saying in the ads and the way you're presenting is pretty much determining who is coming through.
Who's coming in through the funnel. Yeah.
Exactly. And even with things like the offer we were talking about before, it's like how sold are they on the mechanism based on the hook of the ad and what the ad's talking about. Maybe that ad is bringing in individuals that are less sold on the mechanism, so that then like naturally they're not going to know as much, so they're not going to show up as much, but then the actions you might take would be selling more on the mechanism in the pre-call process for those leads that have come from that ad. You can get granular with that, I feel.
Yeah, and I think it's also from I think what matters more, you get more leverage on testing big ideas and angles rather than like how you say a specific thing with your copy, like how slick is your copy. Like, I found more leverage in like, is the big idea and the angle of this message actually meeting the market where it's at? Like, what's the discussion that's already happening in their mind, and am I entering that conversation where it doesn't feel like, oh, like I'm a new stranger, like I understand you. So yeah, like everyone looks at the high level metrics, but like I definitely analyze like what influences those metrics, and I dig deeper than a lot of people usually do.
That's a good thing. Because there's a lot of people that will say like going into the details is a waste of time and stuff, and like, oh, just focus on ROAS. But a lot of times, I think there's a guy called Paul Nicholas. He's an Aussie guy. He's an animal. He crushes. He made a tweet. It was like, the people that aren't detail driven, they might succeed and then say, oh, well, you don't need details. But a lot of times they succeed despite not being detail driven. And then the people that are really analytical and going like, oh, at what second in the ad do you introduce the product? To that level of detail. Those people typically succeed if they can maintain kind of the right mindset. But yeah, I think your way is the best way, to be honest.
And the important correlation to make is like, you need to go deep in the details on the constraint, because if it's not the main thing hindering the growth of the business, then you're just wasting time. So I think, it just comes down to that. I like all of our guests to like think outside of the box and think bigger. Like, right now, the mechanisms of advertising in general are like, yes, content marketing, paid ads, et cetera, et cetera. Like, where do you see the future of advertising going? Is it, do you just think like, do you think paid ads are, of course, all advertising is gonna exist, but if you were to like be super bullish on one main source of advertising, what would that be for you?
One main source of advertising. For me, like, I kind of view it as the advertising is the same. Like, I guarantee you, if we were to look at exactly what we were doing on client accounts, it's going to be like 90% the same or 80% the same. Obviously, there's big difference in terms of like decision making, how deep you're going on tracking and things like that. But a lot of the actual like textbook stuff is similar. And then the main difference is not as much like what platform are you on or what's the style of copy, because you can figure that shit out. Like that's stuff that's figure outable. The stuff that I am more focused on and the stuff that makes me more bullish in certain different scenarios is it's like the niche and the opportunity and just like where you're going and like the model that you're following as well, which is why I think everyone like respects Hormozi so much is because he basically took like the high ticket consulting model and then just gave himself like 100 times or 1,000 times more leverage than everyone else by taking equity. And he was like the first person to kind of popularize that. Like that's the sort of thing where that's the sort of idea that gives someone who is an advertiser a lot more opportunity to just go extremely hard. And that also comes down to like what niches you're working in. Because we could do the same thing in niche A and the same thing in niche B, but get a 10x ROAS that you haven't seen in 3 years in niche B just because it's completely unheard of. So I think the thing that's going to separate people is kind of that more so than
the mechanism.
Like the tactics and mechanisms are, you can pay up someone in a mastermind and just learn that shit in a week.
Yeah.
You know, that is not really leverage to me these days because it's so accessible. It's more like the ideas, the model, that sort of stuff.
And with that being said, like what markets are you particularly focused on to give you the highest leverage?
It's a good question. Like I kind of agree with Ty Lopez when he says like personal brand and AI. I kind of agree with that. Unfortunately, no, not unfortunately. He's sick, but I do think personal brand is really legit. I do think anything AI is pretty legit. As much as people want to kind of resist, and there's a lot of theories about like how well does it work, how applicable is it. The dollars flowing into AI are pretty big. I also think targeting specific demographics. Like, for example, you talked about Shelby Sapp. Like, that's just a women-based demographic for something that's worked really well for guys for the last forever. Stuff like that works really well. So that niched, like those little pockets,
blue ocean
that
pockets,
are big markets that are just really underserved. So that's one. That'd be the main one. So personal branding, AI, and then like sub-demographics where there's a lot of money available. Well, not money available, but a lot of people to serve.
A lot of people with money available, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I look at.
That's sick, man. That's sick. So with that being said, we covered a lot on this podcast, Leo. I appreciate you sharing all your wisdom and advice, man. Where can people find you?
Best place to find me would probably be Leo X Moore on Instagram. That's probably where I'm the most active these days. Got a YouTube as well, but I think Instagram is where I'm a bit more like interactive. YouTube's kind of like, here's all my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, Instagram's like, you know, if you want to connect, like hit me there.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, guys, check out Leo. DM him on Instagram, you know, secure that connection. And appreciate you guys watching today. If there's any questions that you guys had, leave them in the comment section, hit that like button, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.